It's award season, and if there's anything I know about award season, it's that pretty much no one cares anymore. There was a time when people had real respect for critics and journalists of every discipline, whether it's movies, TV, or video games. But now that everyone puts their opinions on Twitter or YouTube, it seems that most of us don't really care much what critics have to say anymore. Now, at the risk of seeming like a hypocrite, I'd like to give my opinion on the opinions of the critics that no one seems to care about anymore. And what better time to do it than around the Game Awards. There are so many award shows when it comes to gaming, but none of them seem to command the same buzz or create as much controversy as the simply titled Game Awards. So with its 8th edition coming in just a few days, let's answer the real question that's on everybody's mind. Are the Game Awards really necessary anymore? I'm Griff from Cinematic Felines on Coke. Let's get into it.
Yeah, take it away, Ernie. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
The Game Awards began as the brainchild of Jeff Keighley, the man everyone seems to know, but no one can quite say where they knew him from. Keighley worked on the Spike Game Awards for a decade before splitting off to start his own show. He used his extensive contacts within the industry to create a unique blend of awards show and marketing presentation, which has been airing in early December every year since. The Game Awards has, of course, not been without controversy in that time, but that's actually not something I really care about for the purposes of this video. What I actually want to discuss is why the Game Awards exist at all. See, gamers have always had a bit of a Napoleon complex compared to fans of other entertainment mediums like movie or TV. Don't take that as an insult, by the way. I'm also a pro wrestling fan, a form of entertainment which basically exists to try to earn the attention of bigger forms of entertainment. But gamers have always felt like gaming should be recognized more widely as one of the top forms of entertainment. So the things other forms of entertainment have, like awards shows, gamers have always felt like they need too. Once again, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's funny that gaming is probably the largest entertainment medium on Earth, and yet it seems like gaming is still considered a particularly nerdy endeavor compared to movies or television or music. So the desire of gamers and the gaming industry to further mainstream our passion is a noble one. I just wonder if award shows are the way to do it. Award shows used to be the go-to for casual fans because it was the best way to learn about movies or TV if you weren't engrossed in the medium. Bear in mind, finding information used to be much harder. So if you were a true movie buff, that really took a lot more of your time than it would today. So when you watched the Oscars, for example, you got caught up on the most popular and ostensibly the best movies of the year if you hadn't bothered to spend the time researching that stuff during the year. At one time, the Oscars were within spitting distance of even the Super Bowl in ratings, drawing over 50 million viewers in the 80s and 90s. Even 7 years ago, 40 million people watched the Oscars. This year, 9.8 million. That trend has been mirrored in the Grammys and the Emmys, even as streaming has brought music, TV, and movies to more people than ever before. But we can talk all day about the myriad reasons why that's happening, but as it applies to gaming, award shows have encountered a similar problem. No one needs to be told what the best games are, they can find that out easily enough on their own. So it puts Game Awards into a weird position, trying to be mainstream using a method that's falling off a cliff popularity-wise. But the Game Awards have always taken a more traditional route when it comes to award shows, preferring to celebrate the most popular games of the year with its fans, rather than drawing attention to the smaller, more quote-unquote critically acclaimed games the way the Oscars have done. In 2009, the Oscar nominees for Best Picture included The Hurt Locker, Avatar, The Blind Side, District 9, Inglourious Basterds, and Up. Two of these, Avatar and Up, got into the top 10 of the highest grossing movies of the year, and two more movies from that top 10 list, Sherlock Holmes and The Hangover, were represented in various awards as well. In 2019, not a single Best Picture nominee was even in the top 10 highest grossing films of the year. 2020 was even worse, as yet again, not a single Best Picture nominee or any winner in any category was one of the top 10 highest grossing movies of the year, even though last year's crop of movies was so slim, the highest grossing film was Demon Slayer Mugen Trail. That's not a joke. The Game Awards have always taken a different tact, as the history of its Game of the Year winners tends to closely mirror the most popular games of the year. Last year's winner was Last of Us Part 2. Divisive, yes, but extremely well known nonetheless. The history of its winners include God of War, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and The Witcher 3. This year's nominees include Deathloop, Ratchet & Clank: A Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. Keighley has been clear that he wants the Game Awards to be a celebration of gaming rather than a strict competition between games. It's a smart tactic, considering that winning these awards means less these days than it ever has. That begs the question, are the Game Awards even necessary? See, the only reason I'm talking about them now is because of the other half of the awards that I haven't talked about yet, the marketing portion. See, over the years, the Game Awards have added more and more trailers and marketing hype to its program, to the point that it's now considered the big winter event for game announcements. Just this year, many people expect a long-awaited new trailer for Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy to drop during the show. It's the biggest reason that I even care enough about this event to talk about it. In previous years, it would have made sense to drop trailers and announcements during an event with lots of hype. The Game Awards reached 83 million viewers last year, a record for the event, and the viewership has increased every year that the event's been held. But as we know from what's going on with E3, for example, event hype means less and less for game publishers these days. If anything, it seems as though publishers prefer to make a big announcement and trailer drops on little hyped YouTube videos on random Tuesdays, since there's almost nothing else to compete with on those days compared to a time where the internet is just flooded with announcements and trailers. So why would the Game Awards be any different? Why would publishers and marketers be clamoring to show their games on that show when they seem to be moving away from E3? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know the answer to that. Look, I'm just a random guy on YouTube. I'm not privy to all the marketings and the meetings and the information and that all these big game marketers have. I assume there's a reason they think the Game Awards are a better place for them to showcase their games than E3 or Gamescom. What I want to comment on with this whole discussion is the nature of awards shows in general, specifically when it comes to gaming. In today's day and age, there's an increasingly big divide between critics and the general public. Before the internet, critics really were the ultimate experts by virtue of their job allowing them the time to do the research and accumulate the knowledge that no one else could. But now, pretty much anyone can do that research and accumulate that knowledge. I remember watching Ebert and Roeper with my dad when I was a kid. Two men who were so knowledgeable about movies that you just had to respect their opinion. They literally had knowledge that no one but the most seasoned experts could possibly accumulate. But now, pretty much anyone can look up all of that stuff that guys like Ebert and Roeper had in their heads. There's less respect for critics now than there ever has been because there's less of a barrier to the education critics have. Now, critics are just people who have the skill as writers or speakers to talk about the games or movies they watch. They don't necessarily have any more knowledge than the average person anymore. This, in turn, has led critics and journalists to become even more protective of their jobs, understandably so. It's why the Best Picture Oscar has increasingly gone to movies that no one's ever seen, some movies that no one's ever even heard of. The critics feel that they have a responsibility to educate the average viewer on movies they haven't seen. Critics want to preserve their status as the most educated viewers or players, and to do that, they need to watch or play more and more obscure titles. This issue has pretty much swallowed the Oscars, turning one of the most watched TV shows of the year into a below average Friday night program. The reason this matters for the Game Awards is gaming and movies have always been related. And when you look at the Game Awards Game of the Year nominees, you start to see a potentially worrying trend. 6 years ago, The Witcher 3 won Game of the Year over a field that included Bloodborne, Fallout 4, Super Mario Maker, and Metal Gear Solid 5. Witcher and Fallout charted in the top 10 on Steam, along with Independent Game of the Year winner Rocket League. Fallout 4 was the third highest selling game in the US, and Super Mario Maker charted among the best selling games in Japan. Even without complete data, you can tell that the Game of the Year nominees were also some of the most popular and most played games in the world. Of the 2020 nominees, only Animal Crossing received the level of commercial success that those games got, with The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima also charting in the top 10 in the US. This year, games like Metroid Dread and It Takes Two are on the nominees list, games that most likely won't be anywhere near the top sellers list when we get to see those. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying award shows should just be based on what games sold the best, nor am I saying that the best games sell the most. Call of Duty and FIFA consistently sell more than any game in the world. What I'm saying is, in movies and in games, there's becoming an increasingly large divide between the mentality of critics and the general public. The relationship in movies has become downright confrontational, rife with animosity, and it seems like gaming might be headed in the same direction. It's far too early to panic that the Game Awards viewership will collapse the way it has for traditional award shows, but it's certainly worth pointing out that the Game Awards have the potential to fade into complete obscurity the way the Oscars have in so many ways. Which brings us back to our central question. Are the Game Awards even necessary anymore? In a way, they're actually more necessary than ever. Gaming has become more fragmented than ever before, with even the mediums on which we play games competing against each other. Tribalism rules in gaming as in so many other walks of life, so having one night where we get to simply celebrate gaming as a whole, remember the games we loved this year, and get hyped for some games we'll love next year, that's healthier for the games industry than almost anything. But with the way things are trending now, an increasing divide between critics, journalists, and players, we could see the Game Awards turned into the battleground between these two factions. A group of so-called gaming experts explaining to the rest of us which games are actually the best ones, and marketing chosen not by what players want to see, but by what marketers and event organizers think they should see. Yes, the Game Awards include a fan vote, but its nominees are chosen by the very same critics and journalists that are becoming more and more bitter about the way the average fan's knowledge has grown. It's too late for traditional awards shows. They seem to be beyond saving at this point, but the Game Awards can still serve as an important function for many gamers. The question is how the critics and journalists view gamers, and how gamers view critics and journalists. So are you going to watch the Game Awards? If you are you interested in the awards, or are you just looking at the announcements and the trailers? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you're not already, subscribe to CFC, because you can bet we'll be covering whatever comes out of this year's awards.
On behalf of the jury, comprised of more than 100 global media and influencer outlets, I am proud to announce the 6 nominees selected for outstanding creative and technical excellence. The nominees for Game of the Year are Deathloop from Arcane Studios, It Takes Two from Hazelight, Metroid Dread from Mercury Steam and Nintendo, Psychonauts 2 from Double Fine Productions, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart from Insomniac, and Resident Evil Village from Capcom.